What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex. In this video, I want to talk about the number one feature, or a feature that I want to see NHL 21 do. Now, we've been covering NHL 20 a little bit. I want to have this video kind of discussing the future of hockey, the future of hockey games. Again, like I said in the last video, though, I did tips and tricks for NHL 20. Let me know in any of these videos if you guys want me to cover anything specific about NHL 20, and I'll absolutely do that. But again, when I look at this game, I've played these games since NHL 10. I've bought it every single year. I've had every year since NHL 10. And the thing I always talk about, even with Tyler on the channel as well, is I talk about like the number one thing that I would love to see these games actually do to improve the experience. Now, I've been, noted on record, even on this own channel, that I think multiple of these games, in their own respective years, I thought they've done the best job at making hockey, the real world hockey, into a video game. I thought NHL 17 was a phenomenal game. I thought that was a really big step in the right direction. I also think NHL 19 and 18, to a smaller extent, 18 was more of like a buffer year, but they've really made a lot of strides, no pun intended, to make this game and make the NHL franchise more like realistic hockey. If you play NHL 19 or if you play NHL 20, they really are trying to make it seem like the players are the players, the game is the game. And I respect them for that, and I will give them credit where credit is due. The biggest thing to me, and I've talked about this before as well, leading into the next game, every year, they always announce, the 5 things that they want to improve. And if your thing isn't included in those 5 things, the chances of them being fixed aren't very high. Okay, they really only choose a small amount of things, I guess major fixes or things they want to fix to actually fix for the upcoming game. And a glaring weakness, and you could even call this video like the biggest issue with NHL ever. This is in my own personal opinion, but I feel like this is true, is at the end of the day, it's close to hockey, but it's as far away as ever, and it really can only get there by either shrinking the ice in the game, or making the players much, much bigger. If you look at this game, and you look at any of the NHL games, the amount of room you have to do anything at any point, defensively, offensively, is way, way, way too big. If you stacked up the players going like width-wise, not length, from goalie to goalie, the width-wise on the ice, you could fit the entire, 10-person, lines that are on the ice on the line. And you'd probably have room for more. The biggest problem I've always, and I've told Tyler this literally for a decade plus now, the problem I've always felt with NHL is that the ice is too big and there's too much room. Now, I get it. At the end of the day, I do want to make this clear. I understand why it's the way it is. I understand why we probably will never get what I'm asking for or what I would like to one day see, maybe even just as an option. Because if you do make the ice smaller, the game itself, I feel like, breaks. See, in real-life hockey, the way the players act, just like with the stick control, with the puck, just the way literal hockey is, working along the boards, those very quick pivots, those very quick turns, those very quick passes, but those like back and forth, especially in like a cycle when you're rotating the puck, the game cannot do it. It cannot. Now this year, they added transitions, and they added, being able to kind of pivot a little bit easier, being able to take the puck kind of on stride and keep your speed. So they're adding some things. They're making it a little bit easier to do those kind of, I'd say, quick turns, quick pivots in like the corners of the ice. So in a way, they are kind of moving towards real-life cycling, real-life possession. But at the end of the day, if you were to make everything smaller and make what you're allowed to do on the ice smaller, it's more skilled. It would make it more skilled. It would make it so that you have to make more passes, but it really does become, honestly, too much real life because the AI would need to be insanely smart. I mean, I know there aren't the brightest. Some of the hockey players, some real-life players, aren't the smartest. Some have higher IQs than others, right? They know where to go on the ice. They know where the puck's going to be, stuff like that. It would be impossible to make the game do that. We know how brilliant the AI is in the NHL games, and that's sarcasm because they're pretty dumb. Most of the time, they're pretty dumb. They would need to ramp it up times 1,000, maybe even more, in order to get it just right. Because you need to have the players know exactly where to go, being able to read cycles, being able to do cycles on their own. You would need all of that stuff. And don't forget, they would need to do this all on their own because it's not just you playing. You can watch the AI play and be a pro. You're just one player in the whole team. So there's a lot of things they have to do. And again, If you make the ice smaller, the opportunities are limited, and it really does revolve more around cycling, looking for that player that's kind of open, getting it back to the defense, stuff like that. And again, those things take like insane puck physics. Those would rely on extremely intelligent AI. It would rely on just I understand that they go back and like the stick goes back and forth, left, right on the puck, like literally moving the puck, which is what obviously real, but the speed at which real life players can do it is much, much faster. And again, kind of like the protection that happens on the boards, the game just can't do that. So really, again, what I am asking for is, I think, basically impossible because it breaks the game. If NHL, the game franchise, NHL, ever wants to be literally hockey in a video game form, it would need to be crushed, destroyed, and built back up from the ground up. It absolutely would, because you can't, I think, implement these kind of changes. Because again, yeah, you could make the ice smaller, and they've done that before. You could play on like the Olympic-sized rinks, right? And they're just even bigger. And I mean that honestly is even worse. But they can do that. They can shrink and open up the size of these rinks. That's totally possible. But if you make it smaller, it becomes next to impossible, because you really can then just check the person. You could poke check. You could stick lift. You could do all these things, get the puck very, very quickly, but again, actually, you wouldn't really have much room to do stuff with. It may, I mean, it's a possibility that it could work in like a short term if they were to test it, but I do just feel like it would break down, because again, the AI would not be smart enough to move around. The puck is not, the way that it should be, and then the puck physics and puck mechanics have gotten better. Everything about these games have gotten better, and yeah, players are much, much smarter now than they were back in NHL 10, and I'm sure before then as well. I get that things are moving in the right direction, but I think the fundamental change of making it smaller, bringing all the action kind of closer together, it would be very, very difficult just because of all the external factors, because it's not just shrinking everything, or again, like I said, maybe making players bigger. I don't know how that would look. I think that would look probably pretty weird if the players literally were just like double their size, and I mean height and like width wise, they would look like kind of like monsters. You're controlling monsters, but you'd have to do one of those two things to kind of take up more of the ice. And again, you do that, and the rest of the game can't really handle that. The goalies probably wouldn't be able to handle that as well. Because, again, there's also goalie mechanics. Goalies come out of their net to play the puck, too. So there are a lot of things that would happen because of that. It's a wish. It's like a hopeful thing that one day maybe we could get it. I think the game does a pretty darn good job. And again, I have been on record saying multiple versions of this game, when I've played them, has felt the most like hockey. I feel like sometimes the heaviness of the players, the shot, literally the heaviness of a shot, they've really improved that over the last couple of years, and they've made it more like you're really taking an accurate, whether it's a wrist shot, a slap shot, whatever. And they've done, I believe, a really, really good job at making that just better, kind of modernizing that. I think they've done a really good job. Ultimately, it is something I'd like to see, because it is something that I just can't help but, when you see massive openings on the ice and you see players wide open and stuff like that, and such a huge gap between like forwards and where your defensemen are kind of on the blue line ready to take the shot or whatever, like every time I see it, it's just like, I wonder what would happen if you just shrunk it. You just brought it in a little bit. How would that change it? Again, I don't think it'll ever happen, but it's an interesting concept to talk about. But guys, let me know in the comments below. What do you think? What do you think about my idea? Do you think the NHL franchise, do you think it's good where it's at? Or would you like to see it, changed? And what changes would you like it to do to kind of become more real life hockey? Again, make sure you guys subscribe to our YouTube channel podcast now. Hit the bell icon so you guys know when these videos go up. And let me know if you guys want me to cover, again, anything about NHL 20. We'll be having a few more videos on that game over this next week. I hope to see you guys there.